Along the Raystown branch of the Juniata sits one of my favorite museums. The Fort Bedford Museum has been preserving the region's history since 1958, the bicentennial of the military outpost construction which the town now sits upon. It was built to house the supplies of the British Army, numbering over 5,000 soldiers under the command of General John Forbes. Their mission was to forge a new route over the Allegheny Mountains and capture the French outpost of Fort Duquesne, the present site of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Fort Bedford was the largest of the forts as it rests along the midway point of the Army's advance. It was here much-needed additional men and supplies arrived from Fort Cumberland, under the command of then-Colonel George Washington.
One of the bastions was protected down to the river, and that was in case the fort ever did come under attack, soldiers could bring water in for the troops.
That's the voice of Jim Hostetler, a volunteer on site. He and many others have dug up a variety of artifacts in the area immediately around where the fort once stood. The crown jewel of the collection is the fort's red ensign. Believed to have been kept within the officers' quarters, it is one of, if not the only known surviving example of a French and Indian War garrison flag. After the fort was decommissioned, a small British military presence remained in the town's King House. One night in 1776, Patriot sympathizers stormed the King's House and captured the garrison flag, a bloodless morale booster in the early days of the American Revolution. Speaking of that war, one of the coolest artifacts to me was this bayonet brought home by a member of Pulaski's Legion. It was most likely present at the Battle of Monmouth, which I have covered in a previous video on this channel. Be sure to check it out. But what makes this museum so special to me is that it's more than just another fort site. It's a celebration of the region's rich heritage. These wedding clothes belong to one of the earliest families to settle the region, the Barclays. The chest was brought over the mountains by the Ernest family, who in 1777 were attacked by an Indian war party. Eve Ernest and her two youngest sons were taken captive, where they lived at Fort Detroit for nearly a decade. A recent addition to the museum's exhibits shows stone workings from pre-European residents of the land. This 1907 mail sled was frequently used in the winter months in Bedford County as one of the several pieces of transportation preserved within the museum. Many in Bedford County enlisted to fight in the Civil War, including John Berkheimer. Berkheimer learned quickly the harsh reality that death could come from illness rather than the bullet. Hospitalized in late 1864, he thought he would succumb to his fever and requested a nurse cut a locket of his hair as a keepsake for his family. Berkheimer managed to make a full recovery and lived to see the end of the conflict. His brother William also served in the final years of the war. His writing kit is on display. One of the largest items in the collection is a cannon. Technically, it's an 1855 Griffin smooth-bore field gun, casted in 1861 in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. While appearing as any other field piece at the time, Griffin's 1855 method for producing this consisted of spirally wrapping rolled iron rods to create the tube, creating an impressively strong barrel that could last up to 500 rounds of excessive loads.
Civil War. It was owned by a family here in town, and they flew it, of course, in town. It was not a military flag. I think it's 34 stars on it for the number of states at that time. By that family is described over in the corner here.
Was it the Barclay?
The Barclay family, yeah. They're the ones that owned the flag. In fact, there's someplace on the flag where it even says, but that must be folded underneath.
Mm-hmm.
But the Barclay family donation.
The museum is located at 110 Fort Bedford Drive, Bedford, Pennsylvania. For hours of admissions, visit fortbedfordmuseum.org.
Have a good night.